Right, good morning, everybody. I make it 10 o'clock, so we will get started. Welcome to this meeting of the Overview Committee. I think this is something of a record this morning for the, the number of councillors and officers in attendance, so welcome. I'm conscious it's a long agenda and I've had various people who need to be away at various times. So I'm going to bring item 9 up to after item 6, which is the conservation area, if that's okay. If any officers want to go away and we'll ring you a bit nearer your item, please feel free to do so. But if you're happy to stay, we're very happy to have you here. But we're going to try and sort of organise things as far as we can to everybody's advantage. We will stop at 12 o'clock for a comfort break. And I think we've organised for a sandwich, seeing as the agenda is so long. So we'll stop around 12 o'clock anyway. That will... Oh, you cynic. Right. So item 1 is apologies for absence. I don't think we have any apologies because everybody's here, aren't they, Laura?
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, everybody's present.
Item 2 is disclosure of interest. If anybody has anything that becomes apparent during the course of the meeting, please declare it. And item 3 is minutes. Can I sign the minutes of the meeting held on Tuesday, the 2nd of September, please? Proposed, seconded, all in favour? Anybody against? Thank you very much. Item 4 then is actions, and you have got some updated actions on the table. They did come through last night. You've got to you should have a paper copy on the table. So we're on page 53. And at the top of the page,
if people are paid to do a job here, why can they not get these to us on time? Because I've only just seen these just now, and there's not enough time to read them properly, and that's really frustrating.
Well, I mean, there was an issue. There was an issue when we had the pre-meeting on Friday about the number that were still requiring a response, and James has taken it upon himself to see if we can get a little better response earlier to some of these. But we did ask, because there was such a list of those that needed a response, we are going to endeavour to make sure that this doesn't happen again in the future, or not so many. There'll always be an odd occasion, but I thought it was better that you had the 1 or 2 that did come through last night rather than wait till this morning. I don't know, James, did you want to say anything?
Yeah, we have picked it up internally as an action for officers to try and sort that out, so you are getting more timely response to the questions you're asking.
Thank you.
And at the top of the page, number 37, you'll see there's an action there ticked. I have asked that that's not taken off because I think we would require a response from the ICB about this. So once something's ticked, it's usually taken off the action list. But in that particular case, I've asked that it remains on so that we can await a response. Anybody have anything else they wish to raise on page 53? Yeah.
Madam Chairman, on 37, the Lincolnshire Integrated Care Board, it's very nice to keep sending them things, but unfortunately they're going to be chopped in half come the end of the year if the government has enough money to pay off the redundancies, and we are going to be merged with Nottinghamshire and Derbyshire, and so where this information ends up will be anybody's guess, because I have friends who work for the ICB and they're not very confident in going into a bigger authority. We're just going, especially on the East Coast, we're going to be left out.
Well, that's one of the reasons I've asked that that be left on as an action, so that until we've had a response, so we can ensure what we're saying has gone somewhere anyway relevant. Yeah, keep going.
I've asked other people here about mental health hubs, and it came as news to them, and they asked me for more information, which I thought was quite interesting, given that they were paid officers of this authority. I did try to click on the map, but nothing happened. So that was a miss. The action plan for vital and viable. Well, it's lovely having an action plan. I love it, but you've got to do something. There's no point in having an action plan. That's gone downhill and downhill and downhill. And there's no point in having a plan if we don't actually achieve anything. So that one's crossed off in my book as well. Storytellers, well, I can't begin to think about that. And East Lindsey, when we had the food fair the other week, I spoke to the officer, and it appeared we only have one officer doing tourism in East Lindsey at the moment. So that's heartening, isn't it? So I felt that these, on this piece of paper, did not fill me with any, confidence in where we're going with any of those things. So the report was late. I'm not confident about the answers. I hope it gets better, because that's all I can keep my fingers crossed for. Actually, and I do need to declare an interest, because Lewis is here and I need to declare that I'm on the board of PS2, and I apologise for not doing that sooner.
Okay, well, as you've had these responses late on page 53, when you've had the opportunity to digest them, if you've got any queries, I'm quite happy that you come back by email, and we'll get a further response. So we won't take any of those off until you've had the opportunity to do that. Okay, Councillor Watson.
Yes, well, while we're just dealing with, thanks, Chair, while we're just dealing with updates from the actions, I was a bit dissatisfied with action number 47 on the paper, the response to that. I think I was partly responsible for that being taken up. The query was really, why is East Lindsey working with Leicestershire? And the response that we have received doesn't actually mention Leicestershire at all. So a little bit more relevant information there I'd much appreciate, because it just strikes me as odd. Leicestershire has its own tourist objectives, I'm sure. So, and from the response, which seems to be that East Lindsey is going its own way anyway, which is probably what I'd applaud. But I didn't think the answer quite fitted the information that I was looking for. Thank you.
Agree with you entirely. That was my thought when I read it last night. So we'll get more information on that. Anybody else on 53? 54? Councillor Makinson Saunders.
The first one, number. I couldn't understand the reply on the first one. A 10-day indication, a 10-day collection window, whilst the performance indicator now reflects a 5-day target. Why are officers so confused about what they're meant to be reporting back? Where's the clarity that they should be furnished with? And on the bottom one, the footfall performance indicators, I've always had an issue with that, because that is picking up my mobile phone information from people going through in their cars through the town centre. What does that tell me? It tells me that somebody's driving through Louth. It means say they've stopped, going to the shops, etc. And so it's withdrawn from future reporting. So we won't have a blooming clue how many people are walking around our town centres, and whether vital and viable, which isn't working, is working. You know, and we're being let down left, right and centre, and it's not good enough.
Again, we had some discussion about this at the pre-meeting, and you'll see that actually that's been taken off, I think, now, because of the inability to accurately record that. Did you want to say anything on that, James?
Yeah, I mean, your understanding on the footfall indicator is the same as mine. I know you've raised queries at this committee previously about the credibility of that information. So my understanding is it has been removed on that basis. Just on the first point that you raised in relation to the fly tipping, I think it's an error within the service in providing the information. It's something we should have weeded out at the point of reporting in reality, but we've now picked it up and it will be correct going forward. So I can give you that assurance.
I've got one right Wednesday.
And you'll see it be that it has been agreed that we will have a reserved members' day session on performance indicators, so we can have some input into that, and we can make sure that everybody is on the same hymn sheet when looking at what we're measuring, etc. Anything else on page 54? No. 55? Councillor Makinson
It's
Saunders?
good, I've got questions, isn't it?
It is.
As usual. The contracting of leisure facilities. I was asked to bring this up by a member of my group. They were made to understand that that decision would be for all councillors. It would appear now that it's just for the top lot, and there's a lot of dissatisfaction. Well, Graham's nodding, isn't he? He's covered by my umbrella term, and I think a lot of councillors feel they would like some say in it, and it's the same as the stuff that's going forward for LGR and all the rest of it. We're 55 of us, and we should be making the decisions, not just a few people who are self-selected, which we're not. We're selected by the public. The executive board is selected by one individual, and I think it's right that 55 people should make that decision, having been told properly what the issues are and all the rest of it. And yet again, I feel democracy is being eroded.
Well, the Constitution, of course, does say who's responsible for making decisions of what. And I mean, this is in line with the Constitution.
Well, that's an argument, but according to John Medler, it's a sin of omission rather than a sin of commission. That because it doesn't state it in the Constitution, that's what the Constitution means, because I've had it out with him.
Right. Okay. Well, no doubt Audit and Governance will be on to that when they're looking at reviewing the Constitution. Councillor Marsh, did you wish to comment?
Thank you, Chairman. First of all, in relation to the contracting of leisure facilities, I gave an undertaking quite clearly and quite strongly that it would be taken before council, and although this is an executive decision, the executive would take note of what the councillors wanted, and we still intend to do that. So before the executive comes to the decision about who it should be awarded to, it will be put before council, and we will hear what council say and take that into consideration. As far as we are selected by one person, I'm exactly the same as you, and I'm selected by my whole ward. They trust. All
right.
My ward trust me to deliver for them what they want, and that's why they voted for me, because of what my principle and what they stand for. And I hope I take that through into my decisions within cabinet. And I think I've always been open and spoken to members whenever they want to, and took their views into consideration. Whenever there's been any recommendations put forward, I think there's only one I can remember that I said I didn't agree with that and didn't do it. So I do think that we do it fairly and openly. And my last point is, if we were to have a debate and ask full council to make a decision about everything, it'd be like putting cats in a sack, and we'd be fighting forevermore.
But there is, I think I'm right in saying, a briefing session, isn't there, next week?
Yes.
About it. So hopefully there'll be a good attendance of members at that.
And the last one I said, that also local government review. We've had several sessions open to members to attend, and quite honestly, they've been appallingly poor. How many people have actually turned up for the sessions and bothered to find out what's happening? Because all the information has been passed out, and it gets passed out regularly as it gets updated and more things happen.
Okay, anything else on page 55? 56? 57? 57? No, 58?
'58,
Yeah.
Madam Chairman. I don't actually buy into what they're saying, because for years, people of Chapel St Leonard's have been saying they can't get into the doctors because of the people that don't register, they just turn up to the doctors and you can be a temporary patient. And unfortunately, we have knowledge on the ground, which people like the ICB don't really have. And I do think it's important that we are paid for the number of people that, you know, Section 106 ought to cover the 40,000 almost caravans that we have on our coast as well. And we should be fighting for that. And I think we need to keep fighting. And when the ICB gets diluted, we need to fight for it even more.
Yeah.
And the volunteer scheme. Well, I'm jolly pleased the council can get volunteers on the cheap, because the rest of us have got to, you know, these are jobs that people could have really. But unfortunately, and I know they sweep the sand up at Sutton and all these other things, but it is difficult attracting volunteers. But when you've got a council taking volunteers out your pot as well, it's very demoralising really. But you know, so we're going to have events people and all the rest of it. Well, I just despair really. Haven't we got better things to spend our money on in this council?
Well, I did, as the minute says, have a meeting with Councillor Devereux just last week, and Nicola Holderness, and we have agreed that we will do a members briefing session on volunteers and the support that this council gives to external volunteers as well as internal volunteers, and that Nicola is going to prepare a brief really to explain exactly what the roles are and who does what and why. And we thought that that was probably the easiest way forward, and to have a members development day session, just showing what people like Shine do on our behalf, and the Lincolnshire Voluntary Service, etc. Because we don't do it all, and we don't intend to do it all in-house. I mean, it's just such a mammoth job that we couldn't possibly do that. So we thought the best way forward was to have a session where everybody can come along and ask questions of those involved, and listen to who does what and where there is support for volunteers available. Councillor Yardley.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to say the YMCA do a lot of these voluntary sessions. Basically, what they do is they, so the first one I attended was in Hemmingby, and then I invited them to Rugby to have a session at the Reload Centre. It was very well attended. It's a really, really good session. If anybody wants details, I'm happy to pass them on. They come over, they set it up, they invite various different community groups. They teach them how to get volunteers, how to market their community groups, etc. So I think whilst we are working on the council aspect of it, if you want to do some real change, you can have that directly with the YMCA, and it's all free.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Watson.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, in my own experience, there is a role for volunteers. And when I ask for people to come and, if they wanted to come and help shift sand on the promenade at Sutton-on-Sea, there are certainly a number of people who are happy to take that up. There are people who realise that after 15 years of austerity in this country, not everything gets done by councils now. And if they see something that wants to do, and they're quite happy to pick up a shovel and do it. And I've been very grateful for the support I've received from our volunteer coordinator, Alison Carlisle. We've got equipment, and we've got a nice little group of people who are happy to do the work. Sure, there are people who expect councils to do everything for us. I don't think that's particularly the way it is these days. So I think there is a role for volunteers, and why should we deny people the right to come and do a bit for their community to keep their place looking smarter and looking better, when really we should be doing what we are doing, and that's doing what we can to support them. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. And to say we'll have a session explaining who does what and where people can get help for volunteers if they need it. Last word, Councillor Makinson-Saunders.
Well, I quite agree, but the volunteers prop up our society, and I don't think they get the recognition perhaps that they deserve. And you know, without them, and I think it's wonderful that people actually still want to do public service like that. Places like Louth run on it, but unfortunately a lot of the volunteers are getting older, all the time, and they need to be replaced by younger versions, and therein lies the rub.
Okay, thank you for that. That's the end of the actions then, so we'll move on to item 5, which is the PSPS Transformation Programme update. And we've got Lewis Duckett with us this morning and Jackie. No, Sam Knowles, sorry, I couldn't see down there. And Sam Knowles, you're very welcome, and I'll hand over to you.
Chair, thank you, and good morning to all the committee members. Thank you for the invitation to give you an update. Just by way of background, as a small refresher, it was 2024 that we were last discussing this with the councils. PSPS, as a local authority trading company, is required to bring forward a business plan covering a 3-year period, and alongside that, it has to develop a transformation plan to deliver efficiencies, improvements, innovation, and a range of things. We developed our last plan, which will cover the business plan period, which takes us up to 27-28. It was approved by 2 of our 3 councils, so we had to make some initial revisions to look at the programme of projects that were in that original plan to ensure that they still had viability and that we could make a start, which we did. And we are currently on track delivering year 1 of those projects. A number of them are technical related projects, so not all of them you will see. And those projects have for year 1 either been completed or they are in train currently. I'm also pleased to report that recently that the Boston Borough Council have also said they wish to partake in the ongoing transformation plan. So now we do have a position subject to the process that the council needs to go through to approve that the plan will incorporate all of the 3 councils. So what have we done so far? So we've completed the income management project, which again is one of those behind the scenes IT projects, which looks at how we manage all of the income across all 3 of the councils. There was different systems, there were outdated systems that were being used. That project has actually been delivered early, so we were able to deliver that some months in advance of what we anticipated, and that's delivered a financial saving for the councils of just shy of £135,000. So that's been a positive project that's been completed early within budget and is now in operation. We're currently working on the Unit 4 finance system. Again, there were 2 elements to that project. One of them was around the cloud migration of that system from it being on-premise to cloud. We completed that in March. There was a small delay to that project going live because of resources that the suppliers didn't have available to us, but that's now been completed and that system is out in the cloud. We're currently working on the options for our HR and payroll part of that system as well, and we anticipate that within the next sort of 3 months we'll have a definitive programme of work around what we're doing for the HR and payroll aspect of that system. In addition to that, we have done some additional proof of concept type projects that were outside of the original transformation plan, but things move on quickly in the world of technology. So we've started to look at where we are using robotics, and we have currently got quite a successful now project. We're 6 months into using robotics across our revenues and benefits service, where it's automating a number of the claims that come from the Department for Work and Pensions around benefit claims. So that's been a really successful project from both a quality and assurance perspective. The volume, particularly the additional volume of work that we've seen in the last 12 to 18 months for revenues and benefits has meant that having robots to process what is automated work in essence has freed up assessor time to be able to support customers who need more personalised support rather than automated claims that come from the Department for Work and Pensions. So overall, the projects that we have delivered in year 1 are on track. We have our next transformation board taking place next Wednesday, the 22nd, where representatives from all 3 of the councils will sit and receive our proposals for projects for 26-27 to determine what projects they wish us to develop further. The one thing that I'll just say is, and I don't think we know where we are exactly on this, but we developed our transformation programme before LGR had even been mentioned or was a thing. And when we look at some of the projects, particularly those that will deliver significant financial benefits, because they are system related projects, you need to actually implement and then see changes in customer behaviour and actually using different systems. And that takes time. So we're yet to see whether or not there is a desire to deliver projects which may not have the short-term benefit, but certainly deliver longer-term benefits. And we're sort of talking 4 to 5 years down the line. Nonetheless, they're still important projects that that we believe that the council should consider to provide good quality services to local residents. So, Chair, that kind of wraps up the update on where things are, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, Councillor Hesketh first.
Yeah, can I just ask how scalable the processes that you put in place are, particularly in light with local government reforms and the desire of this council to create a, we'll let the North do whatever they want to do, but a Southern partnership which is far bigger than we've currently got in our partnership?
Yeah, so there are approximately about 48 projects in total. So scalability does depend on what projects we're talking about. Some of them are very local projects to how we deliver services now. Some of them are very much about how we deliver external services, and it doesn't matter which council would be delivering them, they would have much greater scalability and interoperability. I think the issue when you're looking at systems projects and the impacts of LGR, we may need to take decisions now, particularly around contracts with suppliers and systems, where suppliers are looking for 5 to 10 year contracts and commitments to certain platforms. And when you look across, I mean, just Lincolnshire alone, the variety of systems that are in operation are greatly, are very varied. So we have done a fair amount of soft market testing to understand what our neighbouring councils are currently operating on, so that potentially if PSPS has a future in LGR, that we have the ability not to be met with issues that we have head on. But many of the functions that we're delivering are naturally services that are delivered by councils now anyway, so have got some interoperability.
And do you see, where do you say, let's say the top 1 or 2 opportunities are to be able to use your experience and your history of what you've done in the context of LGR?
So your council now has a local authority trading company that's been trading now and operating for 15 years. It's been delivering all of the services that it currently has, with the exception of procurement, for now a really substantial period of time. I think you've invested in the company, as have the other councils. So you've invested a lot in technology. You've invested a lot in the service provisions that you want us to deliver to local residents. And when we benchmark ourselves across similar councils, first of all, we cost less than a number of other councils in terms of the services that we deliver, and fairly uniquely, we are underpinned by some quite substantial key performance indicators, which ultimately lead to better outcomes and expectations that you want us to deliver for local residents. Whereas councils themselves, when they look at in-house services, don't necessarily have the matched levels of expectation that you place on us. In terms of where we are placed, we've equally demonstrated quite successfully, I'd like to think, that we were able to onboard one other council during the pandemic as well. So we did that within a period of 6 months. So I think depending on the proposals that are ultimately proposed for LGR, I think PSPS does have a good place to support you with any particular proposals that you make, depending on of the various options that are being debated. And there's obviously some that would require significant scalability of PSPS if you wanted to significantly grow it. So I'd like to think that we're well placed to support the council and the new successive council in delivering the services, certainly that we deliver now. And ultimately, there will no doubt be new opportunities for whatever new council exists, depending on what decisions are made in terms of absorbing other services from other councils.
Thank you. Councillor Watson.
Thank you. Yeah, going from what you say, you sound like you're in quite a confident place as you look forward to local government, as we all look forward to local government reorganisation. So I'm pleased to hear that. That's highly commendable. My question is basically a simple one. My first question: robotics. What are they? How do they differ from AI? Is it actually a machine with moving arms around? Excuse my ignorance on that one. Secondly, you haven't plugged your event for councillors on Tuesday, 21st of October here, which looks like a really insane evening.
So I'll answer those questions in reverse. I was going to do that at the end. So Tuesday the 21st here as an event about PSPS. Some of that will be about our transformation, but thank you. In terms of where we are positioned and where we are placed, I think it ultimately does come down to what decisions are made fundamentally. In terms of the robotics, so AI is an all-encompassing word that is used for lots of different technological solutions. Now, Jackie's not here, so as long as we're not going to talk any more technical than you've currently proposed, I should be able to answer it. AI is a term that's used for a variety of features, which includes automation, and we all use lots of automation now. Lots of services that you have, will be automated. Services that we have now are automated. You've then got robotic types of functions, and I talked about robotics. So that is very much, we have got robots who work alongside our human workers, who have been taught and learned our systems and processes by humans. So the particular example I gave you in revenues and benefits, we have worked with a supplier who effectively a claim comes from the DWP. The computer, the robot, analyzes that claim. It checks to make sure a number of fields have been completed. It checks with information that we have and hold on other systems. So checking that the claim's correct, that the amount's correct, that no information has changed from the last time it came through. And then the robot makes a decision on that claim, i.e. yes, process it, process that payment. And that's more robotics, where actually a computer is interpreting information, making a decision and pushing that outcome out. And in most instances, certainly for what we're using it for, the customer has got no awareness as to whether or not that decision is being made by a human or by a robot. We did quite a lot of quality assurance to make sure that the way that the robot had been developed by us and with another supplier was making the right outcomes or the right decisions, that it was taking into account sensitive information and changes that could equally occur in people's personal circumstances. And then we did a quality assurance check to make sure that when we went through batches of claims, how many claims was that robot getting right or wrong. And we were in the real sort of 97–98% of claims that were being accurately processed. But then there's a mechanism for when the robot comes across something that it's not been trained or developed to do, it's pushed back into our human workflows, and then assessors are picking that up in the normal way. And then we look to identify why the robot wasn't able to process that particular claim, and then look to then develop that further. So we're in the really early stages. There are a number of councils that are working with the suppliers that we're working with. So we're able to learn from all of the mistakes that have gone before in the last sort of 18 months, 2 years. I think it's definitely got its place, but we need to be careful about where we deploy robotics, and that's certainly an approach that we have at the front. And it won't be able to do everything or all work that humans need to do to serve local residents, but I think it certainly has a place in the future workforce.
Let's come back with a quick follow-up. That's very interesting. Obviously, robotics are helping in your drive towards efficiency, presumably replacing eventually members of staff. Robotics achieve 97%-ish. How does that compare with humans, just out of interest?
It's fairly similar, and that's because it's been developed by humans and it's constantly being developed. So the platform itself is the robotics, but a human is developing it. Just to the point on humans, I think actually it will have an impact on the workforce of the future, because our future workforce will need to be able to develop the skills and knowledge to be able to do this. It's been quite an insightful learning curve, I think, for many of our existing staff that worked on the project, who quite frankly have done an amazing job, and it has freed up their time to be able to deal with much more complex work. So the other advantages is that the robots for us work for about 23 hours a day. They don't take any holiday. They have a kind of a different cost and profile of those sorts of things. So yeah, we've seen positive results, and it's providing it's enabling us to provide a better service to the public.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Jones.
Yes, and I've enjoyed your presentation actually, but I'm looking at Appendix C, which is Lewis Richards, one of your reports, and I hope the robotics can do a bit better. He's managed 6 words on one A4 page. I don't know if you've seen it, and there's another one with 12. We've got a heap of paper here that's more than 1.5 inches thick, and probably you might be able to thin that down a bit.
I'm not sure if that's a report I wrote. I'm not actually sure what's being referred to, but I'll happily pick that up outside of here.
Yep. Thank you. Point well made. Councillor Makinson-Saunders.
Thank you. Well, I was rather disappointed last night at the LGR presentation that there was no mention of the role of PS2, because I think that we've illustrated that we're capable of achieving savings very effectively and efficiently through a linked company. So I think that would have been a good idea to have pushed at the presentation, because there are 2 more people in South Lincolnshire that might or might not join our merry team, and I don't know how they do it, but it'd be interesting to look at if you could assimilate what they do into what PS2 do to make it even more efficient. And I think that was something, sitting here this morning, I think was a bit of an oversight. But I do think, because there was an awful lot of talk last night about driving forward savings. I thought you were a good example, and I just think, have you got that in your thing, James?
James.
Yeah, no, thank you. I mean, I can confirm that PSPS are kind of a key part of the bid that we're developing. And I think when we were talking about the South and East Lincolnshire Council partnership, we were also talking about PSPS in that context as well, recognising the partnership owns them. Whilst we didn't say PSPS explicitly, I think there is huge recognition of the efficiency they've driven in the services they provide, and we think it can be scaled up to increase that efficiency across a broader region.
Well, given that a few of us might understand what goes on in the council, there are other people who certainly wouldn't, and it would have been a good time to actually tell them, really, and that especially one certain councillor in Louth. And I wanted to say thank you for the robotics. I did ask a question about that at full council last week. I think it's a really good way. We could use that in planning applications and all sorts of things. And I know we're a bit reluctant to sort of do it, and there's some councillors that shake their heads when you try to push it. But it is a way forward, because then you can spend more time with vulnerable people. And that's what I'm hoping you'll be able to do with the time that you save, because there are an awful lot of people in our communities who need time and they need help. And if this allows that to happen, jolly good. I know there's a fear about losing jobs and things, but if it makes the services better and it helps people further down here, then I think that's a good thing. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Marsh.
Thank you, Chairman. Just one thing. I accept what Councillor Makinson-Saunders says, but the whole idea of that presentation is not about explaining the function of the council. It's about our bid to run, or we would like to run, the south part of the county, and the north part would be another unitary. So I think it's difficult, if we're not careful, we'd have put too much in the presentation and it would confuse people. And it's about the concept of what the council will do. It's not about how we get there, it's about what we do. And I think James needs mention here, because his work on this has been exemplary, and the packs that we have produced at various stages along the route explaining what has happened and how we're going to achieve it I think have been very good. But I take Jill's point, but it's not about explaining what the council does. It's about explaining the concept of what we see ourselves as being. How we get there within the internal works is a totally different matter.
Okay,
And providing better
Okay.
services.
okay. Thank you, Lewis.
If I could just add to the point as well that and I take Councillor Sanders' point, and as Councillor Marsh has said, PSPS have been completely integrated by the councils as this proposal has been developed. I've sat on all of their working groups. We've contributed to the development of the business case for PSPS. So I am confident that the councils certainly see us as part, fundamental part of their proposal. They're going to submit in due course.
I think
Okay,
it's a public perception, and that's where we need to work on it to show that we're already being successful in doing it. And I take your point, but I do think to show that we are capable of doing something gives people confidence in the fact that we might be able to do a lot more.
okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions? If not, thank you very much.
Thank you. We know we're in the hot seat, so we're going to have to leave. It's not that we don't want
That's
to stay.
fine. Thank you very much. That's been very interesting. We'll move on then to item 6, which is the crime and disorder report. Councillor Marsh, I think this is your portfolio, isn't it? And Emily, we've got Emily Spicer and John Challen with us this morning to present the report. So I'll hand over to whichever one of you is doing the presentation. John.
Thank you, Chair, and welcome hello to all the members. Just before I go into the report, just want to introduce a few colleagues as well. Sat behind me, we've got Peter Hunn, who's the Safe Communities Manager for Operations. Next to Peter, we've got Sarah Cocker, is our Safer Communities Officer. And a big thank you to Sarah for her help and assistance with pulling the report together and all the appendices as well. Next to Sarah, we've got Inspector Jackie Evans, who's the Neighbourhoods Police Inspector for the East Lindsey area. Sat next to me is Dee Bedford, who's our Safe Communities Manager for Operations. And as you mentioned, we've also got Councillor Marsh here, who's our portfolio holder as well. In terms of the report, this report provides elected members with a comprehensive update on the community safety activity across the East Lindsey area during the 2024-25 year. It outlines the strategic developments, the enforcement activities, partnership initiatives and future priorities under our statutory duties of running a community safety partnership. As many members will probably remember from previous years, we have a duty and responsibility under the Crime and Disorder Act to run a community safety partnership, and we discharge that function in two ways. We have our local community safety partnership, which we run alongside colleagues at Boston and South Holland, but we also have a seat at the county partnership, which is the Safer Lincolnshire Partnership. Now, the report has got a lot of appendices with it because it's been another very, very busy year, so I won't go through all the appendices, but I just want to pick out some of the local delivery highlights of the last year. Starting off with the summer policing plan, there's been a number of multi-agency operations, including Operation Songlark for caravan burglaries, Operation California for drug use, Operation Coastline, which is the serious violence and violence against women and girls, Operation Atlantis for missing people, and the Operation Stronghold and Define in relation to travelling criminals. We've also been successful in delivering against some project work, including the Safer Streets Fund, and that has provided additional CCTV, some bollards and barriers in car parking areas, and also in environmental improvements. And there's been also a really successful hotspot policing initiative that's provided an additional 6,000 patrol hours that's led to 169 stop and searches and 116 arrests. We've also been supporting quite a number of campaigns, including Antisocial Behaviour Awareness Week, Hate Crime Awareness Week, Scam Awareness Week and the White Ribbon Day. In addition to that, we've also been promoting campaigns on social media such as Crime Stoppers and Action Fraud. There's been quite a lot of work as well around the domestic abuse support area as well, and there's been quite a number of sessions for training and awareness that's been led by our domestic abuse officers. And the focus here has been on coercive control, male victims and older women. And we've also been collaborating with the county-wide domestic abuse service and the Haven domestic abuse service as well. Last year, you may recall us talking about a new noxious odour protocol. I'm glad to say that that procedure has been embedded within our antisocial behaviour enforcement process, and the data that is included. But also just to report that we've got our first potential court case under the new noxious odours procedure that's due to be heard shortly. We've provided a lot of cease to be information in Appendix 4, which again don't tend to go through, but that's all there for any overview or scrutiny for members to do. And just to finish off, in terms of our strategic planning, last year we spent a bit of time doing a strategic assessment because our strategy was due to finish and has done. So we've introduced a new local strategy for the Community Safety Partnership that will run from 2025 to 2028. But we've also, that's in Appendix 1, but we've also provided with a completed action plan for the year, for last year, for 24-25. The timing of our local Community Safety Partnership strategy is really apt because the county-wide group, the Safer Links Partnership, have also undertook a similar exercise and produced their strategic assessment, which will be running from 2025 to 2028 as well. So it's neatly embedded within that. And a point of note for the county group is that they've moved away from a core priority group model that we've seen year on year to adopt a more project-based delivery model, which is also in keeping with our local community safety partnership. So in terms of recommendations to members, we'd ask that the contents of the report is noted as evidence of our statutory compliance for the Crime Disorder Act in relation to our partnership activity, but would also seek some advice on future areas of focus for inclusion for any subsequent reports that we'll bring back to ensure that we're aligning with any local priorities or concerns. Appreciate that's a whistle-stop tour of the report, but there's a lot of detail in the report, and I'm mindful of the number of agenda items, so more than happy for myself and colleagues to take any questions.
Okay, thank you very much, John. Councillor Marsh, did you want to add anything before I open it up?
Just a few words, please. I think I've told the council before that at one time each division and area had its own local crime group that came under the county crime strategy. When the actions of the county one changed focus, all of the other areas apart from East Lindsey, Boston and South Holland decided to close down their community safety partnerships. We were the only one that continued it, and I think I've thanked councillors before for supporting this, because it does take resources to continue. But I think as we look through this report that John's just presented, we can see the benefits of having our own community safety partnership, how we can focus on things that are unique to us and not be governed by what's happening to other areas. And I think the officers have done a great job and continue to do. There's no one worse than an ex-policeman to be more critical about the police and community safety, and I'm no exception to that. But I do think we work well with the police at the present time, and it's a pleasure to actually have this in my portfolio, because it takes very little effort from me, because the officers do it all and just present it. And any questions I've got, they've nearly all identified that and resolved it before I ask the question. So well done and thank you.
Thank you for that. I've got Councillor Knowles and then Councillor Hesketh.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Just a couple of bits, just to pick up regarding the domestic abuse officers. I'm glad this has been highlighted on a couple of points, really. Number one, the Male Victims Awareness Day. Brilliant idea, but I'd like a little bit more information on that, if that's okay. And controlling and coercive behaviour. Now, I know of a case about this, just recently happened to a friend of mine. She left a controlling marriage. Her husband had been coercive, manipulating, etc., etc. And the other day, she actually had a visit from Lincolnshire Police to actually ask her about what happened. That's still ongoing at the moment, but so unfortunately, I know no more about that, if you know what I mean. But I'm pleased that's been highlighted. Very pleased about that one. But I said it wasn't very nice. That's about it, really.
Thank you very much. Councillor Hesketh.
Yeah, it just seems a bit strange to me that last week we were in a council meeting where we had about 8 lines to spend £4.5 million. And now we get a very comprehensive report on crime that seems to have all the sort of data you want to try and understand what's going on. So it just seems a little bit of strange the way we present information, ask people to have input into it. That's the first thing. The second thing is I see these are all very comprehensive reports, but they all look like they're from organisations who are completely disconnected from each other. But there doesn't seem any strategy going through the documents that I've picked up in my reading of it to say these people are working together. And it seems like East Lindsey's got one, or the partnership have got one format. There's one called, the one which is Safer Lincolnshire, which has a version control on it, which I really like on documents, with nothing in it. Honestly, my previous existence, this wouldn't even get on the table. So we can't be doing that sort of thing. It's not professional. And when documentation and policing is so reliant on accurate documentation, to present a report with no version control on it seems a little remiss to me. There we are.
Thank you. Councillor Arnold.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I do have quite a good relationship with the local police in Mablethorpe, so I get to see what's happening on the ground. As most of the people in this room will know, I was the councillor that brought the white ribbon to the table for East Lindsey, which was some time ago now, and it is great to see it being used. But my challenge is some of the comments that you've made regarding the white ribbon. There's a line in there that says Boston members were given white ribbons. Well, considering we were the one that brought this forward, I've never been given one. I've never been invited to a white ribbon ambassador day. I do believe myself and Gray, I believe, are the white ribbon ambassadors. I don't know about you, but have you been invited to anything?
I'm sad to say no, I agree with you. I've never been invited or included.
Are we just paying lip service here? Because we're surely not doing the actions that we should be doing, and we should be ashamed that we're writing in these documents that we are doing it when it's lip service. Because I don't know about anybody else in the room, but I definitely, as the white ribbon ambassador, have never ever been brought it forward. And I had many a conversation with James and Dee regarding this over the last couple of years, and it's disappointing that we're still here having the same conversation because we're being excluded. We're just showing off that we're doing it when we're not really doing it. It's embarrassing.
Thank you for that. Do you want to answer those challenges before I take Councillor Makinson Saunders? So John, over to you.
If I can answer, please.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's leading for the domestic abuse side of things. In terms of white ribbon, that's a very sort of specific piece of work, and I take that criticism on board. Sorry, I take that criticism on board. I think there's lots of work that we've been doing with the domestic abuse officers, and we're looking towards getting the domestic abuse housing accreditation. Sorry, so there's lots of things that we have been doing across the partnership. White ribbon, like I say, is a very small part of that, but I recognise the importance for a lot of people. Thank you for a lot of people. It's something in terms of the white ribbons being handed out. I don't think that that's been consistent across the partnership, and it's not been a decision that's been made partnership wide. So like I say, I can take that back. But in terms of the impact of the domestic abuse officers across the partnership, it's by no means lip service. We've had some really successful outcomes. And I mean that in terms of supporting officers to deal with our customers that are experiencing domestic abuse, but also domestic abuse that's being experienced by officers themselves and also members. So it's significant in terms of the impact that they're having. But as I say, I take the criticism on board in terms of the actual handing out of white ribbon. We need to get some consistency with that.
Okay.
Yep.
It's not just about getting a pin that says that you support the white ribbon. It's about the fact that we as a council stood together and said that we wanted to be part of this partnership. It was some 2 years now, I think we're getting on for, would be about right. And, you know, you have 2 dedicated councillors in this room who were were chosen to be the ambassadors, we've not been involved in the process. And whilst I don't disagree that there is probably some sterling work being done, it's not about you coming to an overview meeting and presenting a report. It's about us getting involved in that. We are all took the pledge as councillors to stand to the white ribbon pledge. It isn't about us then giving it to you to work. We are out in the community and we are seeing people, and we should be working collaboratively together. And that's what's not happening. It's not about you giving me a pin. I'm not bothered about having a pin, but we've missed 2 white ribbon awareness days that we as a council, as a group of membership and officers have not done, not collaboratively together.
I think you've made the point, and I think it's been taken on board, and moving forward that will be addressed, I'm sure. Okay, John, there was 1 or 2 other challenges in there. Councillor Hesketh made some challenges. Do you want to answer those at all?
Yeah, I've got noted down in terms of the community safety partnership and the lack of cohesion, or the comments about lack of cohesion. But hopefully the reports that have been submitted and the action plan for last year, but also the strategy moving forward, demonstrates how we are actually working together across the three councils and also the wider partners. So this isn't just about East Lindsey, Boston, South Holland. This is also about all of our statutory and non-statutory partners that attend and bring something to the meeting. So be it police or probation as statutory partners, but also some of our colleagues in education, North Sea Camp for the prison service, our housing association colleagues. Yeah, the report, the meetings themselves are incredibly well supported, and the range of topics that we bring in and discuss, hopefully will give members of that assurance that we're not just a one-dimensional partnership doing the things that we have to do. This is a much wider, more embracing partnership that Councillor Marsh has talked about earlier on.
Thank you. Councillor Marsh, did you want to add anything before I go to Councillor Makinson-Saunders?
Yes, please. Just a very quick one. The paper that Councillor Hesketh referred to, which is the version control, I presume. The reason that that's there is if you look at the front of it, it's Safer Lincolnshire, which is the county-wide one, which is the one that's more strategic, and it's the strategy for 2025 to 2028. The fact that there's nothing in the version control is because this is the first version. We haven't altered it yet, so there is no additions to marking the version control. That version control page, when we do any alterations to it or bring it up to date, will have a version of 1A or whatever, and the date it was done and what the amendments refer to.
Okay, let's not have an argument.
Yeah, can I just come back and say, I encourage you to have some consistent threads of strategy that go all through the report, so we can see something is building into something else, is building into something. That's all I'm asking for. I think the work is good. You can see that the work is there, but having that consistency, I think, would help an awful lot.
Okay, thank you for that. Then Councillor Makinson-Saunders and then Councillor Watson.
Well, there's a lot of information in this. Sadly, Lincolnshire is struggling, isn't it? And we don't have enough money to cover what we need. And it looks like we might need more police officers. And I think public confidence in the system has gone to pot, really. Sadly, I read this report. It seems unless you live in Skegness or Boston, you don't get an awful lot of for your money, but still, I mean, it's pretty sad that I'm an old age pensioner and I know where the crack den is in Louth. I know exactly the number on St Bernard's Avenue, and I can take you to a place in Louth where they're selling cigarettes cheaply, illegally. I'm not a member of the police force, but nobody seems to have done anything about either of these. I get constant phone calls from a member of the Labour group saying about the drug problems in Louth, which are causing other problems and people dying of taking their own lives and so forth from it. And I say, well, unfortunately, it's not really a health issue, it's a police issue. You'll have to speak to the police, but given that the police station's only open 3 days a week, perhaps that's quite difficult to overcome. I'll go on to housing because I am bewildered where the housing people work with something like this. I'm a member of a charity. We've got somebody who is living and it's actually illegally because he's got his son come to live with him and he's going to have to move out. The only house that the council can house him in is in Coningsby, and unfortunately they're not allowed to go to Coningsby because that is where the mother of the child lives and there's an order against it. So why are we housing somebody somewhere like that? So this poor man is up in the air about that. And I had 2 people come to see me when I went to the baby bank last week, sobbing their hearts out. Her sister is a victim of domestic violence. The boyfriend lives in Skegness. He goes into drug frenzies. He comes over to Louth and he breaks into the house. And she's been offered somewhere to live with 3 doors. The girl is beside herself with fear because that's 3 doors he can kick in and he'll probably end up murdering her. And it's sad. They come to you and they're sobbing their hearts out. And you say, well, I'm sorry, but you'll have to get in touch with Platform because and I suggest who they might get in touch with because you know it's just awful that you know this domestic violence thing is important and so forth. But what can we do to help vulnerable people? And this is where I just think some of these things just don't fit together properly. And I'm sad to say that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Watson, I think you were next.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to ask for the source of the information at 2.1 in the report, which makes the claim that crime, antisocial behaviour and fear of crime in South and East Lincolnshire remains the area remains one of the safest places to live, work and visit. I did a little bit of my own research into crime figures and public disorder and so on, and there seems to be a wide variety of statistics out there, and one is ultimately left to make your own conclusion. I would like to know what Jonathan Chandler considers as a good source to find out about the true level of crime in our area. But on the whole, I completely applaud this report. I think it's an excellent showcase of the amount of work that the council does. And therefore that begs the question, and I would direct this towards Jonathan and the police inspector there, if I might do that. Basically, what extent do you feel that the councils are actually taking over some of the duties of what is an active but underfunded police service in combating crime and disorder in our area? There's obviously a lot of work together, and I presume the police welcome the work that the council through the Community Safety Partnership is doing. But you know, how much is it taking over the role of the police, or do the police think there are other areas the council could help with in view of their what you could term as a funding crisis, with Lincolnshire being the poorest funded police area in the whole of the country?
Some challenges again there, John.
Yeah, and I think Emily wanted to come in first on Councillor Makerson Sanders' quick comment.
Well, may I?
Yes.
Thank you. It was just to recognise that actually our community feel more comfortable, don't they, in the villages and towns that they live in. The people that they talk to within their community, it's quite obvious from the cases that Councillor Makerson Saunders has touched upon that actually those conversations are probably far deeper and more providing more intelligence than we as officers will ever receive. So my point was just, I know you will, because we have many a conversation, but please do report those to ourselves to give us any further information that can really help us put the right, connect the dots and really work these things through. Your information is always very, very helpful. There were a couple of things that you listed there as well, and I would always urge you to talk to the police as well around some of that detail. But that was all I wanted to say, just to say thank you. Our community members are really, really important, because without you, we wouldn't know half the things that we're told. So that was just where I wanted to go. And then over to John. Thank you.
Thanks, Emily. And in relation to the, I've got 2 queries listed here. In terms of the statistics, we use the Police and Crime Commissioners survey information. We have access to that through our seat round the table at the Safer Links Partnership. So that helps us massively in terms of that overall strategic picture, but also locally. And again, this comes back to Councillor Marsh's comment about the value of having local partnerships and local connections. Our police colleagues have recently done a lot of promotion around seeking what the public's views are and gaining some very local knowledge on a beat level. I'm not sure if Jackie might come in at some point once I've finished, just to give you a bit more of a flavour of what that piece of work is about. But that element very much shapes the here and now in terms of the policing priorities that we set locally. So just by way of explanation, we have local police priorities set on a quarterly basis for the local beat areas, and that gives a real clear focus on emerging priorities, but also existing ones, so that we're not just trying to provide a policing model across the whole of the county that isn't bespoke to some emerging issues, whether it might be drugs, might be antisocial behaviour, might be shop thefts, but it needs to and does do reflect what's going on locally. In terms of the second point, with regard to kind of how much work are the council doing to help and assist the police with or is there any overlap or the like? It's, in essence, it's very clear. If it's anything that's of a criminal nature, that absolutely sits with the police, and anything from an antisocial behaviour point of view that isn't criminality, that's where the local authority can come in. But we absolutely need to work very closely with the police, because, as can quite often be the case, something that might start off as non-criminal behaviour can very quickly escalate, and that doesn't want to get caught in between a reporting or a lead authority leading it to another one. So our ASB officers work really closely with the beat teams in terms of the procedures that they carry out, and even the services of the serving of the warning letters. That's done as a joint thing, because it gives a lot more kind of weight behind the process, but also means that if that does lead into any additional or further criminality, that's already been picked up at that point in time. So I think that's really quite important to try and capture that it's not just an either or, but there is a very much a middle ground. I don't think it's a case of the council doing the police's work for them. I think it's both of them helping each other out in what can be quite a grey area sometimes, and making sure that people don't fall through the net. On top of that, yes, we do other things such as CCTV, which isn't a statutory function for anybody to do. So that's a real, something that East Lindsey has done for a number of years, and that also goes part of our way to discharging this duty that we've got, but isn't, I wouldn't say, doing the police's job for them, just like they're not doing the council's job for us. It's us helping each other out with the resources that we've got. Jackie, I hope I didn't make a mess of trying to explain what the priority setting is and the survey work, but if you want to jump in.
Yeah, just to echo, really, I certainly do think that we've got a really good relationship, certainly with the ASB officer. We've obviously one retired recently, but we've continued that relationship with the person that's taken over. So I don't, whilst there's always overlap, I certainly don't feel like we're treading on each other's toes. And I'll be honest, without that sort of partnership working, we'd really struggle. Certainly with the ASB element, it's really good just to work jointly on that.
Thank you. I think it would be helpful actually to maybe put a piece in members' point brief about the new ASB officer, because I don't think I've picked up who's replaced Chris. I don't know if other people have, but he was a good contact before. Yeah, Councillor Watson.
The second part of our actions requested of us was to suggest priority areas that they might consider looking at going forward. And I would echo what's already been said about reporting crime and reporting anything to do with crime. In my day job, I do meet quite a lot of residents, and to me, the big issue is that people do not feel inclined to report crime for various reasons. Some of the ones I get is that, why haven't you reported this to the police? I did, well, nothing will happen. Police won't be interested. Police won't have time to investigate. I don't want to waste their time. They won't be able to do anything. Those are just some of the responses I get. And so I think I would like to see a big push on encouraging people to report crime. Even, I always say to them, if you report it, even if nothing happens, it will go down hopefully as a statistic and might help this county improve its funding, its case for better funding for our police service. And I think that's an important factor as well. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's a point well made. Somebody else, Councillor Mackinson Saunders and then Councillor Yardley.
I did notice that there was a huge increase in the number of people that have gone missing, which the police were asked to follow up. It's a huge increase in East Lindsey over the last year. And I wondered if we ought to be working with the health service. I imagine an awful lot of those are elderly people who've losing their memory and things like that. I know one case of an autistic child that went missing, but I was wondering if there was another place we could go to get help with that, because that number has crept up hugely. And I just wanted to say thank you to the antisocial behaviour team, because they sorted out a problem somewhere else in Louth. Wasn't my ward, but that councillor's often missing, and he sorted it out, and the man was absolutely delighted with the results. So, but I am concerned about the number of missing people, and if people are suffering from dementia, there are ribbons and things that people can get, but why is there such an increase, and how can we help stem that?
Okay, Councillor Yardley.
I just want to reiterate the point that Councillor Watson just made, and I think it was a very good point. Safer Together was a little branch of the PCC that they had started off with, which was fantastic, absolutely brilliant. They would go to community hubs, they'd have meetings there, they would encourage people to report crime. And Councillor Watson's right, if we don't report it, when I moved to this area, nobody reported anything. They're like, oh, there's no point, the police don't do anything. The problem is the police don't know something's happening unless it's been reported. And I think while Safer Together did a great job of having that push, as East Lindsey, we need to do something as well. We need to send out, we have our Facebook page, we have LinkedIn, we have various different social media platforms where we can push this. And as councillors, we need to be sharing this on our Facebook pages as well. So thank you.
John, did you want to come back on any of that?
Yes, please, if I could. Just in terms of the reporting element, which is obviously a couple of the parts raised there. Members will see that in the Appendix 1, we've provided the strategy for 2025-28, and we've got 4 areas of focus for that. The 4 being antisocial behaviour, taking a place-based approach, fear of crime and perceptions, but the 4th one being the encouraging of reporting of crime and ASB. It's something that was absolutely on the agenda for the strategic assessment. It's one thing using the data to say how we believe that this part of the world is very safe to live in, but knowing that we've got fear of crime as that's in the community, and also a feel that there's a lack of reporting going on, it felt right that this was absolutely an area of focus. So please be assured that that's something that we've picked up on and will be embedded within the next 3 years of our activity. In terms of missing people, yes, there does. Picking up on that point, there has been a notable increase in like the use of social media alerts for this, and to be fair, I think that's something that is what we don't know, I suppose, at this point, is whether that's an actual increase in the number of missing people or an increase in the ability to try and resolve that by the use of things like social media and to try and get the word out there, because there's more and more people have access to social media and might be able to help and assist with that. But absolutely something that you're right to flag up and raise, because it's something that I think most of us have probably noticed, but it's whether that is actually an increase or just an increase in trying to resolve it by other methods. But thank you for that, and we'll take that away and see if there's some work we can do through the partnership to tackle that, if there's something we can do.
Okay, I haven't got any other speakers, so thank you all very much. I think that's been a really good debate this morning, and there's been some really good points made that hopefully will help the work in the future. Last word, John?
Yep, sorry, just in terms of reporting, there is the street safe feature that we can use for reporting, and it's for the missing people. I'll let Sarah advise you on this one.
Yeah, we've started receiving the street safe data. It's a facility that people can report either via an app or online, basically places where they feel unsafe. And that feeds into the policing priorities. And as district councils, we're also starting to receive that data on a monthly basis. So we're going to look at that as well. So that is another piece of the puzzle in terms of things that aren't getting fed in necessarily through appropriate policing channels or, you know, to us as an ASB issue, but we can certainly look at that in terms of those locations and the sorts of feelings and, you know, on the ground that people are experiencing but not reporting through. So it just gives us that little bit of context. So we're going to start using that a bit more effectively.
And again, I think that's something that more information could go out to members in the members' point brief about, because I mean, that was news to me, and I think probably everybody else in the room. The more information we can have as members, the more we can help direct people in the right direction. Right, well, thank you very much indeed, and thank you for the entire team for coming this morning. I think that's been a good debate. We'll move on then to item 9 now then, please. We'll take the conservation area appraisals update. And I don't know, Tom, Emily, is this up to you? Wendy, Bernali? I thought it might be Emily, so over to you. Are you struggling with presentation?
No, it's up.
It's up. Excellent.
Is it
Thank you.
not? Oh, please. Please let me know. Thank you. Good morning. So I'm going to provide a heritage update, specifically discussing the 4 conservation area appraisals that we've had produced. You'll see from the date on them, they are 2024 productions. Whilst I had just returned from maternity leave, we had also commissioned 3 further appraisals for Boston, Holbeach and Spalding, and the agreement then was that we would put these ones in abeyance until the other 3 had been completed, and then go out to consultation as a suite of documents highlighting heritage over the 3 authorities. So I'm now pleased to announce that we are now ready to go out to consultation. So I'm going to give you a presentation to put these in context, essentially. So the work underway at the moment, we have 3 officers now in the conservation team: myself, Heritage Manager, Greg Watkinson, who's the Principal Conservation Officer in South Holland, who has dropped his planning caseload and is now purely a conservation officer. And we've just recruited, she's just in her 4th week of employment, Imogen Colnut, who's the Assistant Conservation Officer. We're all masters in conservation, and I've got 12 years in local government. Greg, 6, and Imogen is just starting straight from university. We've got 3 conservation officers now for 3 authorities, which is the best situation we've been in for at least a decade, if not longer. And hopefully you'll start to see improvements in service as a result of that. We also are about to enter into a new archaeological contract. The previous 3 years for East Lindsey and Boston have been with Heritage Lincolnshire. As of the 1st of December, we would be entering into a contract with Lincolnshire County Council, and that will be aligned with the contract that South Holland already has. So we will have, I will announce the team members from the archaeological contract in December, and that will be the full conservation team covering both built heritage and archaeology. it will be those members that you would contact directly if you've got any questions regarding heritage. And I've also set up, although I haven't put it on the presentation, one email address to contact all of us, and we will then sort between ourselves who responds, and that's conservation.advice@e-lindsey.gov.uk. So that means if any one of us is not available at that time, another officer can pick it up. So hopefully that will provide a much better service across the partnership. So this specific report or presentation is to present the 4 conservation area appraisals we've got for Alford, Horncastle, Spilsby and Wainfleet. As discussed, they were produced in 2023-2024. Each of the town councils has already seen them, saw them at that point, to proofread and to check fact, but was not given the opportunity to consult, discuss any of the recommendations within it. That is what this process is for. It's worth noting that we are also currently out to tender for a further 14 conservation area appraisals, which are funded by the ELIF fund, the East Lindsey Investment Fund. We're expecting the tender to close, the process for that to close in the next 2 weeks, and they will start works before Christmas. So that will be, East Lindsey will have all of its up-to-date conservation area appraisals. The aim to get those adopted April, May time next year. So that will mean we will have a full suite of evidence to use in any future local plan reviews or new local plans, which again, probably in the best position we've ever been in, because most of our smaller villages have never been appraised in the 50 or 60 years that they've been conservation areas. So that's a feat. So in terms of another document that's also available at this time for consultation, we've also produced a South and East Lincolnshire Council Partnership design guide. That come about through residents and members wanting a document. Essentially, when we're not available, people still want to be able to help themselves for advice on how they should be looking after our traditional buildings. So this document will be available online to answer those questions when we're not available. Obviously, hopefully, we're going to be available much more often, but officers can use it signposting as well as anyone else. So I'll go through that further in the presentation. So these are the 4 conservation area appraisals I've got in front of me. I've got 3 additional copies if anyone wants to grab one now, or I've also made them available on a council consultation page website, which I've shared within this document, and I will send out to all affected ward councillors, town councils and any members that ask now, and I can include it in the member brief. Just so it's there. The current link includes a link to all of the suite of documents currently out to consultation, which includes Spalding, Holbeach and Boston, but I will be producing, or we are in production for 3 separate ones just to cover each council. But at the moment I wanted to get them online so we can share them. As you'll appreciate, they're very large documents and quite difficult to share via email, so this makes that much simpler. If you wanted to go through them individually, Alford Conservation Area appraisal includes a couple of boundary extensions and no removals. The extensions are mostly to include the whole of someone's garden rather than splitting a garden in half, other than it also includes the Memorial Recreation Ground and Gardens to the rear of 36 and 38 East Street. So that's included on the presentation, and you can see that in the map included. There is an explanation of why we've, or not, the consultants that produced these documents, why they were suggesting those as recommendations. In terms of the consultation, we will be consulting on these boundary changes. Once we've received all of the public and councillor responses to these, we will produce a report which will then go through the democratic process for adoption. At this stage, it's consultation. They are not guaranteed to be added. And there's also discussion around any removals if there are any suggestions. But that's Alford here if anyone would like a copy. Horncastle. For Horncastle's conservation area appraisal, the additional area is this site and the buildings next door. LCC are aware we've been in discussions for the past year and a half, as are my colleagues. So that's the only thing for discussion for Horncastle, really. In terms of the reasoning behind including this area in the conservation area is obviously there's some trees in the area that include and historic buildings that it contributes significantly towards the character of this area. In terms of what a conservation area does, it very minorly restricts permitted development rights, but in terms of development here, it already affects the character of the conservation area by being next door to it, so therefore being added to it has very little impact other than protecting the trees, of which majority of them are TPO'd already. The next conservation area is Spilsby. There's quite a few additions for Spilsby and quite a few of them may be controversial. There's the addition of a large area of new build that was built in the 2000s. Obviously there's a consultation. I'm happy to hear throughout the process opinions on that. The reason why you would include an area of new build, and it's an area of new build which follows historic plan form and does contribute. It's clearly designed with the conservation area in mind, and therefore it's been suggested for addition. So again, that's up for consultation, and hopefully we'll receive lots of comments regarding that. And then Wainfleet is a very major change. Prior to 2013, Wainfleet had a conservation area both north and south of the railway line. In 2013, against officer recommendation, the area to the south of the railway was removed from the conservation area, and the Article 4 direction, which covers Wainfleet, was also significantly reduced. Both the 2008 and this conservation area appraisal suggests reinstating that area that was removed in 2013. So this conservation area appraisal explains the reasoning behind that, and we wish to consult on an extension to the conservation area for that reason. In terms of land ownership, the land ownership south of the river is much easier than a town centre, so there's only a few number of landowners that we'd need to write to inform as part of the consultation process. It has to run for a minimum of 21 days, but I will be running it for 6 weeks. It will include writing to the addresses of anyone that's considered for changes, addition or exclusion from the conservation area. We'll also provide site notices on the entrance and exits to all of the areas, and there'll be a minimum of 4 per area, but essentially on every entrance to that area. There is a statutory requirement to do press and gazette notices, as we do with planning applications in conservation areas. The documents will be available to view online via this link and one for East Lindsey directly. And there will be a minimum of 1 in-person event held for each area, which I'm yet to arrange, but as soon as that's been arranged, that's when we'll set the 6 weeks and the deadline. So hopefully that explains what the consultation is for and how we will conduct it. I'm on the page with me. And then in terms of the conservation areas, all 4 of these conservation areas, including the 3 for Boston and South Holland, include a management plan which suggests how we can produce better quality design, how we can help to control positive architectural details within the conservation area, how we can better understand those buildings that aren't listed, identify opportunities to restore character such as grant funding, and how the open spaces and green areas contribute to that character, and encourages us to use the enforcement tools that we have available to us in order to preserve and enhance that character. Whilst there are suggestions to amend or add Article 4 directions, that's not something that we will be taking forward at this time. That has a whole separate consultation required through the legislation. And if there is support for the changes to the boundary as part of this consultation, and there's positive around increasing restriction to better preserve our conservation areas, we will then consider going through another round of consultation specifically for the Article 4 direction and its inclusion. Horncastle has a Article 4 direction already. Wainfleet already has an Article 4 direction, but it is limited. The other two don't have Article 4 directions, and it's my opinion that you can see the difference standing in Horncastle than you can standing in Spilsby. So it's a discussion on whether we wish to increase protection in those other areas to bring it up in line with the protection we already have for, say, Louth and Horncastle. And then the other thing to note, and I did mention it, was that we're also doing a South East Lincolnshire Council Partnership Design Guide. This is not a design guide which is supposed to be printed. It's an online digital asset. You essentially hover over just the bit that you're interested in and it takes you to that part. So it's very difficult to print it out. Although I can print it out for you, it's not necessarily going to work in the way it's designed. At the moment, we've kind of done an information dump on it. So there's a lot of information on it. When we do the in-person public consultation, we will engage and encourage people to ask more questions, add things to it, and as part of that process we'll streamline it, we'll put in what people need, and then again we will then share it after that process. But this I've introduced it at this stage because there is no statutory process to adopt a design guide, whereas there is a statutory process to adopt conservation areas. So I wanted to give it some more weight to append it to these statutory documents. So hopefully that's something that will be helpful in terms of what the design guide includes. It includes information on historic walls and bonds and what you should be doing to preserve those, boundary details, windows and doors, roofs, rainwater goods, finishes. It also goes into how you should look at extending historic buildings and perhaps how new builds should be formed within the context of historic buildings. And there's also an element on shop fronts and how we should be approaching branding and signage and security in shop fronts. So hopefully that's explained. That there's also a very helpful end section which I wrote, which hopefully explains so once you've read the document, you should know if what you're doing requires planning permission or listed building consents, and then there's a helpful process and how you should go about applying for that in each authority and the contact details required for that. So whilst it's not available for me to show you right now, it is on that link, so you can peruse it at your leisure. That's it.
Okay, thank you very much. I've got a question that I probably ought to declare an interest on, but on the Horncastle one, you've now declared my garden as a positive green space.
Okay.
And all the other positive green spaces are public spaces. I don't really want my garden using as a public space.
Yeah.
I have to say. Can't understand why, but suddenly, I mean, I've always been in the conservation area, but suddenly this time my garden is designated as a public green, positive green space along with all the public spaces. So, well, as long as you bring the wine, yeah, that's fine. Thank you. Yeah, but I may not always be. Okay, so comments and questions. I have to say I'm pleased to see this is eventually going to consultation, because I have been saying to Horncastle Town Council for a year, I think now, that this is about to come out. So this is good. Tom and Pranali, did you want to say something before I finish up?
You want to go first,
Yeah,
Wendy?
As the heritage member for this, just want to thank Emily for all the hard work. I mean, me living in Wainfleet, obviously, I've got a major interest, but The extension on Wainfleet I'm really pleased about because it is honouring a lot of the green spaces that we know are historical to Wainfleet, where the old steeping used to come in and the docking and everything else. I mean, it's not interesting to everybody else, but you know, people do come as tourism to there. And also a lot of the old buildings, as we know, Wainfleet, anybody who's been down to the high street, there is a lot of buildings that still need attention, and I do think this will help. So I do thank you for all your hard work on this. And for Spilsby, Horncastle and Alford as well, because I mean Spilsby's got some of the issues. So hopefully this will go forward. And the new design, I know we spoke about the online thing. I think a lot of councillors often get approached when they get turned down for or get a letter saying that you've broken the planning laws, which often Emily's behind. But now they don't have an excuse, do they? They can go online, they can look what's needed, and if they don't do it, then we can just say, well, it's your own fault. Yeah. Which I often do say that anyway, but no, so thank you very much, Emily.
Yeah, thank you. Tom?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I think in the context of Horncastle, I envisage your garden more in the case of the Buckingham Palace garden. A nice patch of green space next to the public park, but the other side of a fence and a wall.
I just don't want it to be used publicly, really.
I would just add my own thanks to Emily and to Wendy for the work that they've both done on all of this. As we move through what is clearly a more challenging planning environment, these kind of local protections are going to be more important than ever. Planning since 1947 has always been focused, in my view, excessively on where things go rather than the what. And I think as we go forward, the what is going to be much more important, and the what has always been much more important to me. I think I'd support the direction that this is going in terms of Article 4. Taking away some of those permitted development rights does at least make sure that when people are making changes, they have to go through that process. So there is that opportunity to check. And I know, and I'm sure we'll hear some questions shortly, the design guide is a super piece of work, and genuinely groundbreaking that we're doing this for heritage from a heritage perspective, not least because I know just how important things such as shop fronts are to local members and to communities. So I fully appreciate it's a work in progress, but it's really good work on behalf of all of the team.
Yeah, and it's worth mentioning that Horncastle or Heritage Lincolnshire, on behalf of Horncastle, have got a large sum of money from UK Shared Prosperity Fund to look at doing things to shop fronts in the centre of Horncastle, which is very welcome and will be well spent. And I think, Emily, you're going to have some input into that, aren't you? So that's good. Pranali, did you want to add anything before I open it up?
No, I think it is all covered. Just one point I wanted to highlight is that this is not just about what you cannot do in a conservation area. The design guide helps and supports, and the management plan also supports what you can do, what positively we can do, and how we can enhance the whole character by conservation and design, looking at it together. So it's the holistic placemaking, which is quite important.
Thank you. Right, comments, questions? Councillor Arnold.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple of questions, and it might just be my ignorance, and I'll accept that. So you said about the archaeological contract going from Heritage Lincolnshire to Lincoln County Council to bring us in line with South Holland, I think you said. Why are we doing that when we've got the potential of LGR on the steps, and when we have to recontract again? And if Heritage Lincolnshire have been working well with us, I don't know, I guess I have a bit of an issue why we keep having to change stuff because another council, it bothers me, that does. And also what strongly bothers me is the fact that Lincoln County Council have come out quite openly and said they're willing to sell off what we think is heritage for our communities. And now we're getting into bed with a contract with them. It feels very uncomfortable. I could be wrong.
Okay, Councillor Yardley.
I'd just like to say this work is massively welcome. Just coming off the back of an inquiry, I think it's so important to have things like this in place so we can protect our area that we're in. So thank you very much. And I know how hard it must have been to do this with 3 of you on the team for all of the partnership. Thank you.
Yeah, to some degree, we're going backwards. We used to have a large conservation team many years, excuse me, many years ago, and that diminished, and it's good to see it coming back now.
Exactly the same.
Oh, wait, good. We're in agreement. And did you
Well,
want to say
yes,
anything
we
else?
had a team of 3 just in East Lindsey.
Yeah.
And one of them was at assistant director level and wrote loads of conservation stuff. So we actually were well served with conservation officers in those days. And we didn't have to go from where I live 50 miles away to look at conservation. You know, I live in a town where the town centre has been at risk for over a quarter of a century. Tom will be fed up to the back teeth of me going on about it. And it's not, honestly, I have to keep saying for everything, it's not good enough because the place is looking shabby. It looks forlorn, and our listed buildings, and we've got to apply for a shop front grant. Good God, the council should be providing that, not having to go for a competitive blooming thing and get a town council to actually have to work out how to apply for it and see if we're successful. That should be part of what the council is doing for us, given that we've been neglected for 25 plus years. And I really feel strongly about that. We're worried about PVC windows, the spread of them, advertising, shop fronts, you name it. The solicitors don't, I've always said that if somebody's buying a house in the conservation area, when they go through buying it, the solicitors should inform them and say there are rules about the area that you're going to live in and highlight that. What? I don't think that's happening still. There are so many things we can do. And you know, we're really excited about having a conservation area. We want it to look nice, but we're not getting the support we need. Lath should have been number 1 on having an appraisal, not right down the bottom of the list. And I'm fed up. I couldn't care less about Hull Beach. I might as well worry about Hull, to tell you the truth, because it's alien to me. And a design guide. I think the buildings down the south of the county are very different from, you go to some of the villages on the marsh in my part of Lincolnshire, and we have very different things. I'm sure there are bits that are common, but, you know, we've always said a design guide doesn't really quite work, but until I look at it and see it. But I'm sorry, I just feel, you know, really depressed for my hometown that is desperately falling to bits. You know, and we just need help. Please come and do something. And we have Article 4 as well.
One of the 14 that you're doing, yeah.
Yeah, but after Hull Beach and Spalding and all these people that are alien to me, you know, we pay our rates here.
All right.
Why aren't we getting the service that we've asked? We're desperate for.
Okay, Councillor Marsh.
Thank you, Chairman. Just a quick footnote to Jill's points. The reason that they're in is because we're part of a partnership, and they maybe think just the same about Alford and Wainfleet and all the rest, saying, well, why are they in? So it is the case. The one thing I really wanted to say was I think that heritage areas are an asset, provided they are used correctly or enforced correctly, and we mustn't put an overbearing on to people who have things in their garden. I'm going to give an example in a minute and declare an interest. I have a tree which is a silver birch, which is clearly a self-seeded. It's the most ugly bloody tree you could imagine. It leans up one side, and it's made to lean out and grow like that because of a conker tree that's on council property. And I've tried to have it moved, but our tree officer thinks, oh, it's such a lovely thing. I says, well, nobody can see it. There's a church behind me. The woman next door to me is as blind as a bat, and there's me who owns the tree, and in a green lane. I says, who can bloody see it? He says, I know it's there. And I thought that was appalling. So we mustn't make this overbearing about what's sensible and what isn't in these conservation areas. If it doesn't fit in, if it's something that's got a short life in any way, it shouldn't be part of the consideration. And I've worked with Emily. Some buildings do need preserving, and some buildings need some help, but it shouldn't be a burden on the tax that we start giving shopkeepers money to do their shop fronts because they're too bloody idle or too tight to put, well, they should put money away in the sinking pot so that when it needs doing, they've got the money there.
I mean, some of the problem is absentee landlords in shops. That's what we've found in Horncastle. They're not people who are actually running the shops themselves.
So we put an order on the absentee landlord and say, do it or we'll enforce on it.
But that's easier said than done quite often, I'm afraid. We have tried that, but it doesn't always work. Councillor Ashton, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chairman. I've never regarded Holbeach as abroad. It offends. They're our cousins. What I would say, though, just picking up on the broader point with Louth, I appreciate we've discussed the at-risk stuff before. Some of this is because we are being proactive in highlighting those challenges and making that awareness and doing whatever we can to try and tackle it head on. I know we have done quite a lot of enforcement on Louth properties over recent years. What I would say, and at risk of incurring the great dismay of Emily and Wendy here, I know we were at one point trying to get a walk round for Louth a little while ago. I will once again extend that invitation. I'm more than happy to come and part of the team, and let's have a wander round and see what we can do to help on the properties that are concerned locally. Just because we're not going to do that appraisal for Louth perhaps as quickly as some members would like, it doesn't mean that we can't get a handle on what's there and use those powers, Article 4 and others, to help where we can.
Okay, I think that'd be very welcome.
We've got the planning subcommittee tonight and I'll set it up.
Okay, lovely. Thank you, Councillor Hesketh, and then Councillor Watson.
Yeah, it's good that we're getting these plans in place, and congratulations for getting them to the consultation side. That's super. I just wonder, because I've got particular issues in my ward where in Great Carlton the parish council is continually nagging me about a heritage issue that's gone on for at least 15 years. And maybe we could spend a little time, you and I, chatting and see how we're going to resolve that, because it doesn't seem to be, I don't seem to get any feedback and it doesn't seem to be moving on.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Watson.
Thank you. I count myself very lucky that I live in an area like this which has such rich heritage. And when I go to Louth, even though nothing's been done there for 25 years, I spend my time walking around looking at the first floor and above. It's really awfully attractive, and I really welcome this report and the work that's being done. I would ask two things: that the concentration drafts that's been mentioned for the different conservation areas, the links to those are sent out to all councillors. That'd be really useful, because looking at them, they're not far more than what they sound like. They're local history lessons as well, and they point out some fabulous features in all these towns that are featured. And secondly, what is a negative space? That's a bit of a label, that. I mean, why is a space negative? So I'd like to know about what a negative space is, please.
Right, Emily, and what is a negative space?
A negative space is an area that doesn't contribute positively to the character of the area, specific area, which is obviously changes depending on what the character of that area is. For example, it could be a gap site where a positive feature was demolished and has just been left. It could be a building of poor quality. It could be an open space which isn't being looked after. It could be something that's untidy in terms of amenity to areas, or it could be something most town centres have got. It could be something that's just inappropriate in its specific location. It could be public realm that doesn't, which is out of character of the area. So it could be for many places, Horncastle in the marketplace has the listed phone boxes, but if it were the more modern glazed phone boxes, someone might say that it would stand out in its surroundings, and therefore could be a negative feature. It can also be lots of signage and overabundance of street furniture, which blocks positive views. We've got that a lot in Skegness, although it's not a conservation area. If you look down Lumley Road towards the roundabout at the end, you can't see the lovely pub at the end because of these huge roundabout signs. And there's also a lot of bins, which you would probably say were a negative feature. So those are things that are negative in a conservation area.
Okay, thank you. And I think there's some work there being picked up for you. And you're going to organise with Councillor Makinson Sanders to walk around Louth, and Councillor Heskett's got an issue for you that's 15 years old. So yeah, I'm going to say I can think of one in Horncastle that's older than that. But last word.
I've got one in Louth, which been going on just as long. It's called Engine Gate Walk, and it's where the river intersects Broadbank. We would like to do something with it, and the number of times I get asked who owns it, we can't track down who owns it, because the district says the county says the district, they say the town. Nobody wants to own it. Somebody must own it, and it's falling to bits, and it looks so sad, and it could be so beautiful.
I must admit, we have issues in Horncastle of sort of no man's land that nobody wants to take responsibility for, that are an issue. So.
Well, if we knew the ownership, we might be able to go somewhere.
Have you tried the land registry? Well, yeah. Anyway, thank you for that, and thank you very much. And we look forward to hearing that the consultations gone out and been done and come back and things have been adopted. But I know you've been busy for the last year, Emily. So I'm pleased you've now got a bigger team anyway. That's excellent news. Thank you very much for that. I'm going to say, shall we put a time scale on you coming back to update us, or do you want to sort of leave it that you'll update us when you've got something to update? Because it would be good to know how the 14 that you're doing at the minute are progressing, etc. I think, especially Louth. I think we're all interested now to hear how Louth's progressing.
Yes, obviously. So the tender, we'll know who has been awarded the tender by December. And I will have completed my review of all of the responses for consultation by January. So I think January would probably be it.
Yeah, that would be excellent. And thank you very much. Right, thank you very much for that. We'll take item 7 before we break, because Mr. Sibley sat very patiently. No. I think he's suffered enough for one morning. So
ready for a lie down, Chair?
I'm sorry, I don't think we can take conservation. We can't take enforcement and caravan recommendations before lunch, but we will take item 7, Towns Fund projects. So, Adrian, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm sure everybody's aware of this, but just by way of a background for those that aren't, we were successful in receiving 2 £24 million awards for both Mablethorpe and Skegness. I think it's 3 or 4 years ago now, so we've all been on a long journey on this one. That was to progress 13 schemes, of which 6 of them we managed ourselves. Those 6 projects were worth £38 million worth of government funding, also levered in £12 million worth of private and the public funding to make £50 million worth of funding available for the 6 schemes. It's been a number of years now since I've been doing these presentations. I come on a regular basis, and we've gone through a journey from the start of the programmes, and we're almost reaching the completion for all of them. 4 of them are complete. 1 of them is half complete and will finish in the spring, and 1 is due to complete in the spring as well. So I think as a council, we can take a lot of pride in where we've come with these schemes. We are way ahead of the curve in terms of other bodies up and down the country. We are seen by the Government Department for Communities and Local Government as an exemplar authority. So I think we can take a lot of pride. I know we don't always agree on the detail of some of these schemes, but the fact that we've delivered and will have delivered all of them pretty much within the cost envelope that we got and within the time envelope, I think we can take a great deal of satisfaction. What I will do, I'll go through each one as I normally do, and then stop take about a minute and then pause at the end of each one for questions, if that's all right, Chair.
Yep.
Thank you. So we'll start as always with the failure. This isn't moving. Thank you. So starting always with the colonnade. I can't say this is my favourite really. I just say it's one I'm particularly proud of. So that's where we were a couple of years ago. I can't say it's my favourite because I've got Councillor Gray in the room. We have a long debate about which is his favourite and which is mine. But it's a great debate because you're talking about successes. So this is where we are now. That's the view from the colonnade overlooking the sea. Children's play area. I mean, it's a stunning building that we've now got. If I just take you back, just look where we were 2 years ago. Look where we are now. Fantastic facility. Is this getting feedback to everyone? Fantastic facility. And just some facts for people to think about. This is quite hard to estimate, but we think in the 2 months that it opened, we think we've attracted somewhere between 20 and 30,000 visitors. The great thing about this, and this is why I think it's such a fantastic project, that's 20 or 30,000 visitors to the town, potentially. It's hard to estimate, so I can't be exact, but we think there's been at least 12,000 receipts issued at the cafe. If you double that, you've got 24,000. And plus there's been about 2,000 people go to all the classes that have been put on. Those 30,000 visitors, that's got to generate additional income into the other parts of the town. That's exactly what Towns Fund's for. This and the next scheme in particular. If it doesn't improve the footfall in the towns, then not a lot else will. So that's why I'm particularly proud of this, because it's exactly what a Towns Fund scheme is about. Just some more details there. So people will be aware we've currently got 7 districts as the cafe operator. They will be in there till the end of January because we have just finished the tender process for an operator, which in actual fact, I think 7 districts will be there till around about the end of March, because I think the conversations that we've had so far is that the new operator wants to move in March. It still is good feedback, isn't it? So we did have 5 expressions of interest for the operator, one of which is our preferred bidder going. Is it my phone that's doing that? One of which we have selected, and they will look to be in place for March next year. They will look to take a full lease at no cost to the council. The only thing that we will be responsible for after that point is the external works to the buildings. No, still not. Right away as I can. I don't touch. I know what's in there. I'm happy to pause there and take questions, Chair.
Any questions? I mean, this was the subject of question to council, I think, by Councillor Mossop last week about the rest of the building other than the cafe, because I think there was a feeling that maybe we as a council were going to operate the rest of the space apart from the cafe. We were going to do that ourselves, but that's not the case, is it?
No, that isn't the case. We've gone to the market twice on having a full operator for this. Is that coming through fine now?
Yeah, yeah.
What I would say is take up from the market has been limited, so it's gone to national advertising campaigns. One of the issues is on the East Coast is that people simply don't see it as a viable area to come and have commercial outlets. That's just the fact of where we live. However, going back to your question, it was never our intention to run this in-house. We've only run it in-house temporarily because of the lack of response from the market. So all the leases that the bids that have come forward are for them to be the full operator lease of the building going forward.
Okay, thank you for that. Anybody got any questions? Councillor Watson and then Councillor Hesketh and Councillor Mackinson-Saunders.
Yeah, thank you. There are 1 or 2 teething issues I would bring, but I don't want to spoil the Assistant Director's enthusiasm about this project. It has been transformational and it's gone very well. I look forward to a successful bidder bringing the building forward to realise the aspiration behind it, really. You mentioned the views. I was there on Sunday. Unfortunately, you can't actually get out of the building to enjoy the views. The doors are locked. The balcony is not available. I understand there is a health and safety issue with that, which we, Councillor Bristow and I have addressed for some time now, but nothing really ever happens. And people are in the village are dismayed that when we opened this marvellous project, it was full of dignitaries on the balcony area there. Pretty much it's been continuously locked since then. So you can't actually get out there on either end, which is a sad state. And I was also partly responsible for organising an art exhibition there. We were told that we couldn't make any fixings in the walls, which makes it a little bit difficult to hang paintings up and that sort of thing, because it would invalidate the guarantee on the building. And therefore, we could not do that. So there are limitations. So I do look forward to the building becoming the marvellous asset it is. And I hope that we do get a bidder who can realise the potential of this fabulous building. And because I don't think council running it at the moment is actually getting there. I admire all the activities that are taking place there. 7 districts have done a really good job with what they're doing, but I think there's a lot more that could be done with the right management. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Hesketh.
So we've built a lovely building, an £8 million cafe, when there's one 100 yards, less than 100 yards, 20 yards just up the road at the beach cafe. But I do recognise that it looks like a lovely building. I have asked consistently for a business case to support this investment. I've never received one, so perhaps maybe we can minute that I'm formally asking for what are going, and maybe you can tell me, what are the ongoing costs to the council going to be now that you've got and hopefully got somebody who'll take on the management of the whole thing. I'm hoping that the awful sheds that were on the seafront are going to be, suitably recycled somewhere, as I see the nice new beach huts appearing there, which is where I'll give an interest here that my wife and I used to have a beach hut on there until they were taken away from us by the council with 6 months' notice. That's good work, but I hope they're never going to come back. Maybe you can confirm that. There is still a large area of derelict land, which really spoils the whole thing, and I hope you've got some plan to do something with that. And the final thing is spending £1.5 million on a tarmacking over a green grassy car park. I have no idea how that can be justified when that could build 3 village halls for the same amount of money.
Thank you. And Councillor Mackinson-Sanders.
I'm a bit confused. Is the 5 operator bids, is that to, instead of the security guards, or is that to run the cafe?
It's to run the entire facility.
Oh, right. So please don't let it be one of those horrible multinational costas or something like that, is it?
No.
Thank goodness for that. Well, I was worried about that. Somebody told me there'd been, to get the cafe in there, we'd had to pay to put the kitchen in, and there were various other overspends. Is that accounted for in the money?
Yeah. So
okay, so I think there's a list of things there. Adrian.
There's loads, yeah. Balcony shouldn't be locked. The only reason I'm aware that balcony is locked for health and safety reasons, but so long as the potential person who wants to rent it out or use it fills in a risk assessment, then it should be open. I'll take the point back because that shouldn't be the case. I know that we have it opened for some events. I can only assume that some haven't complied with the risk assessments, but pardon?
Well, Adrian's going to take that back and look at it, so let's leave it at that.
It's not that space is generally for community usage. It's not for somebody just to wander up there. That space is out. We're talking about 2 different spaces, I think, Councillor. The one where the cafe is, where the benches are outside, that's a public space for everybody to go and sit, so you can gain access to the outside there. I think we're talking about the upstairs area, where we had the presentations for the grand opening. The other side of the building, that's never for public space. That's a maintenance access area, so that will never be open. If you think about it, that overlooks the pool. I'm not sure children with their kids would like somebody overlooking them in that area. So that was never intended to be used for public facility. But the other one is, and I'll take the point back. Future costs. The current discussions with the preferred bidder are there'll be no cost to the council. They take on all the operator costs. The only cost to the council going forward after the 1st of April should be the external work. So it'll be the grounds maintenance works, any works to the outside of the building, which should be minimal. So I'm not expecting there to be anything of any significance in the budget next year for the upkeep of the colonnade. So there should be no cost to the taxpayer on that. The awful sheds, I don't know where they're being recycled. All I know is they're taken away. I've got a funny feeling actually that they're parish owned sheds, not council owned sheds. I think it's the parish council that own them, but I might be wrong on that. Can't hear you, Claire, sorry. Yeah, they're not ours. Yeah, so I don't know what they're doing with them. Derelict land. The derelict land was always referred to as phase 2. So if you remember, our original plan was that there would be lodges there, four overnight accommodation lodges, a little bit squashed by the environmental agency because they didn't want overnight accommodation. But the plan is in the spring we will go back out to the market and we will re-tender that land and see if we can get external expressions of interest to put those lodges there or have some sort of facility there. If that doesn't happen, then we'll have to come back to the council and see what we decide to do. That's purely within our gift to do that. So I do agree there's an area of derelict land, but that was never part of phase 1. That was always a secondary stage. The £1.5 million for the car park, well, that was a full council decision made over approximately a year ago. So that's been approved. If you disagreed with it, that's the time when we set the budget last year was the time to challenge that. But that was part of the capital programme put forward at the time and approved by full council. So I only work within what the council has approved me to go and work within. Fit out. Pardon? Yeah, of course. Well, we all can. Just some better than others. The fit out, that was never envisaged to be part of the original costing. So that's cost around about £280,000. That's to fit all of the internals out. It was originally envisaged that would go out to the marketplace and when they came back as an operator, they would pay for that themselves, but we couldn't get anybody to do that. So we had to fit the internals out, including the kitchen area, at a cost of about £280,000. That will come from, hopefully, part of the 1.5 million car park budget because the tenders are going out for that at the moment. If not, we'll have to look and take a review of what we do with that area. But what I would say is overall, the whole Towns Fund projects of £48 million has come back pretty much within that cost envelope. I think we're talking about 20 grand at the minute overspend within a £48 million budget.
Yeah. Okay. You wanted to come back on that?
If I may just put a bit of meat on the bones of the access to the upstairs balcony issue. Councillor Bristow and I were informed that the problem was that the drainage channel around the perimeter of the balcony, directly underneath the railing, the developer put large cobbles in there, and they can apparently make a significant dent in a bald head when dropped from the top of the balcony there. And the proposal at that time, the officer we spoke to said that it was going to be replaced with smaller sized gravel, which to me is a fairly simple operation. I can get some volunteers to do that if necessary, but that was the issue. The problem was these cobbles in the drainage channel.
Like I said, I'll take that back. It should be used as a public space, so I'll take that.
And Councillor Hesketh wanted the business plan. I'm sure there was one. I mean, there must have been one.
I think maybe I can come back. Thank you for that. The business plan is it will be no cost to the council on an ongoing basis. That's absolutely fine.
So no cost. There will be minimal cost.
Yeah, the gardens.
Like gardens.
Okay, but I'm sorry. I started straight into moaning session rather than saying what a fantastic job the whole team has done in securing all this funding. So congratulations and well done with that.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I come back to the point. 20 to 30,000 visitors visiting the town. That's got to be great news for the town.
Yeah. Excellent. Yes, thank you. On that positive note, we'll move on
Thank
to
you.
the next one, shall
Well,
we?
similar theme. So I'm going through the 4 projects that have finished so far. So this
Yep.
again, this is the Leisure and Learning Centre at Mablethorpe. First time that we've had a swimming pool there. Claire will correct me. She always does. About 30 years.
Oh, it's more than that. Yeah. Yeah.
I said that last time. You said no, it's not that much.
Oh, it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's a long time. So generations have not seen a swimming pool at the Leisure and Learning Centre. Again, 170,000 visitors to the centre speaks volumes for what this must do for the town in terms of its regeneration, because there will be a knock-on effect of all these people coming to the town. That doesn't include the number of people that have had swimming lessons, all that type of thing. I know several councillors use this facility and the feedback has been entirely positive. I've put the numbers up there, but I won't go through them, but you can see that the growth in usage and membership is quite significant compared to what was happening before this was built. So again, another huge success story and a facility that the council would be hugely proud of going forward.
Yeah.
Take questions.
Councillor Arnold.
You would expect me to say something on this. As always, we love talking about the station Leisure and Learning because it is absolutely fantastic. Absolutely right. You can literally some days can't even get parked in the car park. It is that busy. But not just what it's done for our, the fact that our young people and older people are learning to swim in a coastal town. It's fantastic. It's lovely seeing the kids walking down from the school and stuff like that. There are lots of other initiatives that have gone on, working in conjunction with the NHS on pre-diabetes, on Lincolnshire 1U, with their Get Well, Stay Well. There is collaboration with the local police doing mini Magnas. So it's just amazing. And I love to champion you and just say, well done.
Yeah. Yeah. No, excellent. It is very well done. I mean, it's something that all the years I've been here, we've talked about, and to actually see a swimming pool in Mablethorpe is a real achievement. So well done. Anything else?
0 hours contract, sir.
I don't know the answer to that question off the top of my head. I can find out for you.
It's a Magna Vita question. Yeah. Okay, shall we go on to the next one then?
Okay. So the next one is the Campus for Future Living. So this is a research and learning facility based around health outcomes. Some will say this is the best project of the lot. That's up to them to argue it. Councillor Gray. It opened in April. We have now got tenants that are growing by the month. We've now tenants of Lincoln University and the Lincoln Institute for Rural and Coastal Health. Again, another fantastic facility for the town. And I think whereas the other two have got instant impact, this impact will grow and grow as the years and months go on.
Thank you. Councillor Gray, did you want to say anything?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, it's a very, very important project, not just to this council, but for the whole of our region. It's all about health and health inequalities and partnership working. ACES have proved to be a very good operator of the site, so we're very pleased with how it's going there. We've only been open, well, just 4 months, I think. So some members who are in the chamber today were actually there at the opening. We've had 2 openings. We've had an official opening for the campus. And then, of course, as was just mentioned by Adrian, Lincolnshire Institute for Rural and Coastal Health University, they're based there. They had a huge splendid out from people from all over Europe attended that. And it can only be a good thing. It's a 5-year business case that we had initially for this to get a number of organisational services on board, and we're way ahead of where we thought we were going to be. There's some very interesting conversations happening with health providers at this moment in time, and I think I was tasked at the last full council meeting, Madam Chair, to come back in January with a full update of the benefits, who's operating from there, etc. But it's a very good news story.
Thank you. If nobody wants to say anything, we'll move on to the next one then, please, Adrian.
Thank you, Chair. And the 4th project, which is now complete, I think this opened in August, is the travel lodge and infrastructure works at the Skegness foreshore. As far as I'm aware, this is fully booked now for the foreseeable future. So I don't know how far into the future that means. They wouldn't tell me. But it's fully booked going forward, which has got to be great news for the town, because that's increasing the summer season or the people that are visiting the town, presumably from outside if they're staying in a hotel. I know the Starbucks was absolutely queued back for miles when it opened. I think it. So again, a real positive story here, and the plan is moving forward now. Is that now we have secured an anchor tenant, we can go back to the market to look to advertise some of the other lots that we have free on the Skegness foreshore, and we're already in discussions with at least one operator on that. So, but that's within our time and our gift to do that whenever we can. In terms of the towns fund element, all that money has been spent on this project, and again, I can't praise it enough.
Excellent. Yeah, well done, Councillor Marsh.
Thank you. Yeah, just to say I went to the opening of that, and what I found was really good is that the reception and all the public areas are on the top floor. So the panoramic views you get across the coast and the coastal side there is phenomenal, and it's a real good point to do it topsy-turvy, so all the rooms are beneath the top floor. The chap did say to us that 3 months in front from the opening they were fully booked, and they were 7% booked through to Christmas.
All right, good, well done. Any other comments or questions? No, if not, that's the 4 completed ones. Did you want to update us on anything else? Or
yeah. So we're now going to the 5th scheme, which is the partially completed one. This is half completed. This is the cultural Skegness scheme. So this is to put culture back into cultural Skegness. So this is what the building was like beforehand. The half of it that's been done so far is external works, the internal seating, the internal bars, the auditorium and the area to the back of the stage to enable the performances. That was before, and that's what it's like now. I'll go back because that is an astonishing transformation. That.
Oh, wow.
To that.
Oh, have you taken my plaque away?
I don't know what your plaque is.
Just by the front door, because when I was chairman of the council in 99-2000 was actually when we did work to the embassy last. And there was, I don't think it's there anymore by the looks. There was a plaque. No, it was right down near the bottom on the right hand side of the front door. So I should think that's gone now. That was 25 years ago.
I will give you my assurance, Chair, that the person that removed that plaque will no longer be working for this council.
No, I quite like it, that's all.
As I was saying, phase 1's complete. That includes what I've just referred to. Phase 2 is subject to the Arts Council coming good on their on the application that we put in for further funding, which is more about the Culture House, the bit at the back, which used to be owned by I've forgotten the name of the Nini Benini, that's it. So that's about doing that space. We are about to receive, Pranali might know more about when we know whether we've received the funding for that or not. Sorry to put you on the spot, Pranali.
That's okay. We are in consultation with Arts Council and DCMS. So we have resubmitted the business case after we reviewed the design and the scope of the works. And Arts Council is in the period of assessing our business case. So we should know before Christmas the outcome of it.
So the townsville element of it, the money is spent. It's now whether we can get the secondary element of funding to finish phase 2. If we do, that'll be done by the spring of next year.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Councillor Meckinson?
Can't resist it. Has the amount of culture, however you like to spell it, increased? I do see they had King Lear the other night by the Shakespeare Company, but has the amount of culture increased, and is it being taken on board?
Well, there is a full cultural programme planned, which so far has included at least 2 Shakespeare shows. I don't know what the programme is. I'll be able to forward you what the programme is for the theatre in the area. Okay.
Yeah.
But let's not refer to it as an oxymoron going forward.
Yeah. Councillor Watson.
Yes, I was fortunate to be able to see the Royal Shakespeare Company's production of King Lear, my second Royal Shakespeare production that I've seen in the Embassy in Skegness, and I still am mildly surprised I'm actually saying that. So yes, I would say this has bring and is bringing a good deal of culture to what could be termed a cultural desert. So I'm delighted with what this brings to the foreshore at Skegness, and there is a full programme going on there, but not just the base arts. It's also of a cultural nature as well. And now we've spent this money and redeveloped it. I look forward to a lot more going on there. The aspirations for the site are good. Magna Vita are doing a cracking job again, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, there's always been a programme of West End shows coming to the embassy for many years. I mean, I've seen Blood Brothers and Six and all sorts from the West End that have been brought up. So, you know, I think there's a good range of things going on, to be quite honest. Councillor Marsh.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Yeah, I'm pleased to say, because I don't think a lot of people actually are involved or know about it, but it's not just the shows that go on, that's the culture. We do have an exchange programme with young people with Helsingor, so we've got 6 that go over there. They spend 6 months over there doing culture and arts, and then they come back and they do a spell with Magna Vitae, and some from Helsingor come over and do the return thing. So that's a good swap of young people and getting employment. Interesting, the last 6 that came back, all of them got jobs within the local arts and culture facilities. So they did well. Some of the idea of the culture is not just based there, but we were hoping initially, if you remember, to turn those old buildings at the back, the old, I forget what they call them, chalets, into standalone culture bits and pieces to support culture with people doing it themselves. That all fell through, unfortunately, when the people at the piers decided that they didn't want to continue with us, and that's where the sort of the stoppage came, when they withdrew their money and we couldn't do those bits. And of course, they were going to do an awful lot of the Meany Beanie bit. They were going to be involved in that. So that's what's held us up. And I know it looks like, excuse me, that the council's failed. The council hasn't failed. I think we've done a brilliant job keeping the bids together, keeping Arts Council England interested, and accepting the fact that we do need to be fleet of foot and put something forward, which we have done now and which they're assessing. I think that the Meany Beanie bit will be where we get a lot more culture rather than just shows. It will be all sorts of things that will happen there, and I'm hoping that what will happen there, as well as our culture projects where we are teaching people bits about the culture, rather than just expecting it to be something that you sit on your backside and watch, but which you can actually get involved in. So I think there's a lot more to come there yet, and I am hopeful that Magna Vitae keep going there, and because it is their base for their NPO. But of course, we don't know the outcome of the leisure contract. Now, if they don't get the leisure contract or are involved in it, it will alter the whole field of what Magna Vitae do and everything. But we deliberately took out culture so that Magna Vitae could continue with culture if they weren't successful with the leisure. But there's an awful lot more to come from Skegness, and I think time will prove that we can deliver culture and deliver top quality culture in partnership with Magna Vitae.
Okay, thank you. Quickly, Councillor Watson.
Yes, quickly, thank you, Chairman, for your indulgence. The final line there refers to the Arts Council funding, which is expected imminently. My understanding was it was going to be the end of November or thereabouts at the time of the budget. Can I just point out this is causing significant difficulties to those of us trying to plan events going forwards. I refer to my own particular interest, which is the Vintage on Sea event. We have no confidence as an organising group in booking acts and entertainment because we have no funding in place to cover that. And I think it's a shame that the council cannot at least guarantee, in my own case, we're looking for the sum of £10,000 would see us right. It's a shame that the council cannot guarantee that that money while we wait for the Arts Council funding, the government funding to come into place. And at the moment, it means we're going to have a poorer Vintage on Sea festival because we won't be able to book the people who would like to get. Thank you.
Okay,
Can I just
Councillor
respond?
Marsh.
Can I just respond? Like, if I'm right, if we go in now and say, oh, we're going to do it, we're going to pay that, we're going to underwrite it, the Arts Council might then turn around and say, well, you don't need the money now. And I think we need to wait until they've made their decision and made it public before we can make the decision. I would certainly support us supporting Vintage by the Sea, because I know what a great thing it is. But let's be fair, these projects are good, and if we're not careful, they can end up where every year they're expecting more money, and it is about, the programme is about starting these off, empowering local people and helping them to develop so that in future the funding that they need and the support gets less and less as they get more professional, better taking it on.
Okay, Councillor Mackinson Saunders.
That's why we have 0 degrees in North, because we have to raise the money to pay for any of the events that we want to put on, like the Vintage Day. I was just going to make the comment about the Arts Council funding. It's a shame it's limited to the coast, because I think the inland areas would really benefit, and the villages would certainly benefit. And I think, I know it's about deprivation and all the rest of it, but you know, Louth has to stand on its own 2 feet raising money, and I think Horncastle does as well. We put on lots of culture, and I know you do in Horncastle, and it would be nice, all done by volunteers, yet again volunteers, propping up services for our residents. But I'm just sad that the funding doesn't come inland. A friend of mine going to tap dancing class in Alford, which is funded by this, 12 weeks, free of charge, and they even offered to buy her tap shoes. And she said, but I've already got them. Oh no, have another pair. Is that what Arts Council funding ought to be going on? Not in my book.
Councillor Marsh, did you want to answer that?
I'll respond to that last one first. That isn't Arts Council, but that's, well, it is in a way. It's live and local, and we got £110,000 allocated to Alford to run events just in Alford, so that the live and local team could evaluate what effect it had on the local community to put that sort of money in rather than putting dribs and drabs in. And they did a second year, so we've actually had 2 years of 110,000. So, but Louth has had Arts Council money, because I went to an event at the theatre where they were allocated some money, so they have had money. And I've also said that So Festival can come back to Alford, come back to Louth, but there was some hesitance about whether they want it back because they didn't think it did an awful lot for Louth.
Well, we'll have it in Horncastle. We'll have it in Horncastle. Let's have the debate outside of the meeting, I think. But I don't know what it is, but perhaps that over lunch that we're going to have in a minute, you can have a discussion about that. But we'll have anything that's going in Horncastle, won't we, Councillor Gray?
We will.
So, right. Was there anything else, Councillor? So, I've demoted you. Sorry.
Just to finish on these projects, the Moby Hood one. This is the one that's still yet to be finalised. However, this is about moving, split into 2 phases. Firstly, is moving the bus company to a different site. We are in the process of lining up all the ducks here. We expect the contracts to be signed in November, so that company moves out into another location, and where they move to another location as well. We then have to decide what we do with the site, which is, I can't remember the name of the road now, but it's next to the Spanish city. Yeah, everybody knows where it is. What we are doing is twin tracking 2 approaches. One is going to the market to see what private sector interest there is. And the other at the same time is looking at a public sector proposal about what we do with this site as well. So that's for the future. This is what we're looking at the moment. So the first phase of this and the Townsford element of it is to clear the site, which we've got approvals to go ahead in November.
Good, thank you, Councillor Mackinson Sanders.
Well, I quite like the Moby Hub. I thought it was a good idea, and I think it's a welcome to Mablethorpe, and it would look. I have to get feedback now. But the mayor, you know, the lady who has insomnia, that lady, she's got lots of money to give out for public transport. Why aren't we asking her to put some money into this? Because public transport will go there.
Do you mean the Lincolnshire mayor?
Yes.
Well, we could raise the point with her. I wouldn't hold your breath, but we can certainly raise the point with her.
It might be worth trying.
I know we are meeting with her quite shortly,
Tomorrow.
aren't we, James?
Tomorrow.
Yeah, she's actually got a skills board meeting here tomorrow, and on Friday we've got a meeting about LGR with her. So we've seen her twice this week.
So I was
Oh,
a
she
bit,
went-
Right, okay, let's, I'm going to take councillor Ashton and councillor Watson, and then we're going to break for lunch.
I'm just going to speak to welcome the Moby Hub proposals, and I just a little bit of background. A little while ago, I was asked to be the member lead on Moby Hub, and it does seem to be quite a long time getting through stage one, but it is so important that move takes place, that it frees up that space. And I'm as keen as everyone else to see what we can do around a proper intermodal hub. It's got to be more than just a smart council building because the council want to build a smart building. It's got to have a function for that community, and I'm really keen to explore what we can do to help.
Right, thank you for that. Councillor Watson?
Thank you. Is the funding in place for the phase 2 of the Moby Hub scheme? And will the recently announced new money, £20 million for Mablethorpe, will that be spent on it, or are there future plans for that funding? Thank you.
I can't answer in terms of the 20 million. I think Pranali is going to come in on that in a second, but there are no funds being made available for phase 2. If you remember, the funds for this were all diverted. Phase 2 were diverted for the campus for future living. The council could put some of its own funds aside in the future budget setting process, but there are no funds there at the moment. Pranali advise you on the 20 million.
Pranali?
Yes, so the recent announcement of 20 million for Mablethorpe, that will not come into fruition until another 18 months. So from April 26, we will start getting capacity funding to prepare the plan by working with the new neighborhood board and all the town center kind of stakeholders. And that plan will be submitted to the government by end of next year. And that will generate the 20 million coming forward from the year after. So we are at least 18 months away from receiving the full funding.
Okay, right.
Just to wrap up, Chair, so that's where we are. So 4 schemes finished, 1 in transition, one due to finish. As I said at the start, £50 million worth of funding that's been spent pretty much within budget and on time. I think we can be immensely proud of the facilities it's left this authority. We may have teething problems, we may have 1 or 2 issues, but with £50 million worth of expenditure, not everything is going to go right all the time.
No.
But I think we can take enormous pride compared to the rest of the country where we are with these schemes, Chair.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, Charlie.
Can I ask what went on? I think one of the schemes was at the railway station. I happened to spend a very exciting Saturday morning in Skegness, and I saw some rather interesting concrete shapes outside the railway station, and I wondered if that was Towns Fund money.
No, that's a long while ago, isn't it?
Oh, is it? Well, I don't go there very often.
Yeah, I think it was a major scheme of the railway station probably about 10 years or so ago when they were introduced. So they've been there quite a long time.
Yeah.
Maybe more than 10.
But one of the schemes that was successful was the upgrade of the railway station. I don't know the detail of that scheme, but that was one of the other 7 Towns Fund schemes that we didn't manage.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody knows any more on it.
Okay.
We can certainly send you the details.
Right, we're diversifying away from where we should be. So thank you ever so much, and thank you to your team, Adrian, for all the hard work that's gone into delivering these schemes, because it is a tremendous amount of work, and it's been a tremendous investment on the coast as well. So we do appreciate the work that's gone on. Right, and at that point, I'm going to declare that we have half an hour for